The slap echoed through Memorial Hospital's emergency ward like a crack of thunder. The rich woman's hand connected with Nurse Tiara Evans's face, her Cartier bracelet leaving a red welt across dark skin while she shrieked about "people like you" touching her dying husband. What Kiara Simmons didn't know was that the black nurse now tasting blood in her mouth was married to CO Hygiene, the white Korean Mafia boss who controlled half the city's underground, and his security team had already sent him the hospital's surveillance footage. In 72 hours, CO would methodically dismantle Kiara's entire existence. Her reputation, her country club membership, her husband's medical care, her family's real estate empire. All because she made one catastrophic error. She touched the one person in this city who was untouchable. But the real shock wasn't the revenge. It was what CO built from the ruins of her downfall. Here's what nobody tells you about what happens when racism meets organized crime's code of protection. This is the true story of how one act of violence in a hospital corridor destroyed Kiara Simmons's world in 72 hours and created justice from the wreckage. By the end of this, you'll understand why the woman who assaulted a nurse is now living in a studio apartment working retail, and why the Mafia boss who could have had her killed chose something far more poetic instead. Before we get into the destruction, and trust me, it's coming, hit that subscribe button because we're dropping more stories like this, and you're not going to want to miss that. Now let's get into this. Tiara's Apple Watch was vibrating. Blood pooled in her mouth from her split lip. Kiara Simmons stood over her, chest heaving, that Cartier bracelet still catching the fluorescent light, and hospital security hadn't moved yet. Because in this city, money paralyzes people. But Marcus had moved. CO's head of security was already stepping out of the elevator, his hand reaching for his phone where Tiara knew he'd already pulled up the footage, his jaw clenched tight. Not anger for himself, dread of what was coming. Because he'd already sent that message, the one that would end Kiara's life as she knew it. The watch stopped vibrating, which meant CO was done watching and had started making calls. 8 minutes. That's how long it took for CO Hygiene's black Maybach to cut through Seoul's evening traffic like a knife through silk. His driver didn't need instructions. The alert that flashed across CO's phone, wife, physical assault, Memorial Hospital ER, said everything. No words were exchanged in the back seat. Just the sound of CO's thumb scrolling through the surveillance footage Marcus had already uploaded. Frame by frame. The approach. The argument. The slap. That Cartier bracelet catching light as it connected with Tiara's face. CO watched it 3 times. His face never changed. That's what made him dangerous. Other men in his position would have been screaming into phones, making threats, sending soldiers. CO just rewound the footage and watched Kiara Simmons slap his wife again. And again, memorizing the angle of her hand, the twist of her mouth as she screamed, the way hospital security stood frozen like statues because her last name bought her immunity. He made one phone call. Pull everything on Kiara Simmons. Family, finances, medical history, who she's fucking, who she owes. I want her life in a file before I arrive. He hung up. The city lights blurred past the tinted windows. Back at Memorial Hospital, the atmosphere was changing. The charge nurse, Sandra, had been in the break room when it happened. Now she stood in the hallway watching Kiara Simmons pacing near the ICU entrance, still ranting about standards and competence, still convinced her money made her invincible. Sandra's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, CO's head of security, who she'd met exactly once at the hospital charity gala Tiara had dragged him to. Just 2 words, he's coming. Sandra's stomach dropped. She'd seen CO that night, watched him donate $250,000 with the same casual indifference most people use to tip valets. She'd also heard the stories. Everyone in Seoul's service industry had heard the stories. The restaurant owner who'd insulted CO's mother and lost 3 locations in 1 week. The prosecutor who'd tried to investigate his businesses and resigned under mysterious circumstances involving photographs that never went public. And now this socialite had put her hands on his wife. Sandra walked to the nurse's station where Tiara sat with an ice pack pressed to her face, Marcus standing behind her like a sentinel. Tiara, Sandra's voice was low, urgent. Is there anything you need me to do? Before, she couldn't finish the sentence. Tiara looked up. Her lip was split, swelling already blooming across her cheekbone. But her eyes were calm, almost sad. Tell security to clear the ER entrance. And maybe, she paused, maybe someone should tell Mrs. Simmons to leave, while she still can. But it was already too late for that. Down the hallway, Kiara Simmons's phone rang. Her lawyer, then her sister, then her accountant, all within 30 seconds. She ignored them, still too furious, too righteous in her indignation to notice that the hospital staff had started moving away from her like she was radioactive. The Maybach pulled into the hospital's Circle Drive. CO Hygiene stepped out, and the night air seemed to hold its breath. Death walked into Memorial Hospital wearing a Tom Ford suit. CO Hygiene didn't run, didn't shout. He moved through the automatic doors with 6 men flanking him, 3 on each side, and the emergency room went silent. Visitors froze mid-sentence. A child stopped crying. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to hum quieter. His men weren't hiding their weapons. Shoulder holsters visible under open jackets. A statement. A promise. The hospital administrator, Dr. Chun, appeared from nowhere, hands already raised in placation. Mr. CO, if we could just... CO walked past him like he was furniture. Kiara Simmons stood near the ICU entrance, phone clutched in her hand, finally understanding that something had shifted, that the universe had tilted on its axis, and she was standing on the wrong side of gravity. She opened her mouth as CO approached, maybe to apologize, maybe to explain, maybe to remind him of who her family was. He walked past her too, didn't even glance in her direction. The real horror of it was in that dismissal. She wasn't worth his attention yet. She was an errand he'd handle later, after the important things were done. Tiara sat in the nurse's break room, ice pack pressed to her face. Marcus stepped aside as CO entered. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a coffin ceiling. CO knelt in front of his wife. His hands that had broken bones and signed death warrants, reached up with devastating gentleness to move the ice pack away. His fingers traced the swelling on her cheekbone, the split in her lip, the red mark from that Cartier bracelet. His face remained completely blank. But Tiara knew him, knew that blankness was a mask over something volcanic. Does it hurt? His voice was barely a whisper. Hygiene. Does it hurt? Yes. He nodded once. Stood. Kissed her forehead with a tenderness that somehow made the room feel colder. I need you to go home with Marcus. Right now. Don't argue with me. He pulled out his phone, thumb already moving across the screen. I'll be home in 3 hours. What are you going to do? CO looked at her with eyes that had gone completely flat. What I should have done the moment someone in this city forgot that you're untouchable. He walked out of the break room. Kiara Simmons was still standing in the hallway, now surrounded by lawyers who'd arrived too late to save her. CO stopped in front of her for the first time. Mrs. Simmons, he said quietly, your husband's ventilator is on the 3rd floor, yes? Kiara's face went white. It would be terrible, CO continued, if the hospital suddenly discovered issues with his insurance coverage. Kiara Simmons made her first mistake thinking money was armor. Her second mistake was making a phone call in CO Hygiene's presence. She stood in that hospital corridor, diamond tennis bracelet catching the light, and dialed her family's lawyer with shaking fingers. Richard, I need you to. There's been an incident. A nurse, she was incompetent, and I simply... Her voice grew stronger as she spoke, finding familiar ground in indignation. This man is threatening me. Yes, threatening. I want him removed from the premises immediately. I want that nurse fired. I want... CO held up one finger. His phone was already pressed to his ear. How long? A pause. 20 minutes? Make it 15. He hung up and looked at Kiera with the detached interest of a biologist examining a specimen. "Please continue your call, Mrs. Simmons. I'm curious to see how long it takes your lawyer to stop returning your messages." 15 minutes. In a luxury apartment across the city, CO's digital team. 3 former intelligence operatives who now commanded 7-figure salaries were conducting an autopsy of Kiera Simmons's life. Bank records, social media, cloud storage, email accounts. They moved through her digital existence like surgeons, extracting every infected piece. The first document they pulled was a termination letter. Kiera had gotten her family's housekeeper of 12 years fired for using the wrong entrance. The housekeeper's daughter had posted about it on social media 3 years ago. 43 shares. The team screenshot it, archived it, cross-referenced the housekeeper's name with public records. The second was a Yelp review Kiera had written about a Korean restaurant, calling the owner's English incomprehensible and suggesting immigration services should look into the staff. The owner had responded professionally. Kiera had doubled down in the comments. The team pulled the entire thread. Then came the restaurant incident reports. For different establishments where Kiera had berated staff. One waiter she'd tried to get fired for bringing her water with ice when she'd asked for no ice. The manager's incident report was detailed. Humiliating. She'd made the kid cry in front of a full dining room. "We've got something," June, the team lead, said into his phone. CO was still standing in that hospital corridor. Kiera now arguing with her lawyer, who had, in fact, stopped answering. Country Club Membership Committee minutes from 2019. There was a vote to remove her. It failed, but barely. Reason cited. Pattern of verbal abuse toward service staff. "Send it all," CO said quietly. "And pull the surveillance footage from every establishment she's visited in the last 5 years. I want a video compilation by morning." June smiled. This was the part he loved. "Already on it. Boss, there's more." Her social media is a goldmine. 13 posts in the last year alone complaining about service workers. She tagged locations. Named people. There's a post from 6 months ago where she calls a Starbucks barista mentally deficient for misspelling her name. The team kept digging. A pattern emerged like a photograph developing in chemicals. 20 years of Kiera Simmons treating anyone she perceived as beneath her like they were disposable. The nanny who'd quit after Kiera accused her of theft. Security footage the family never released showed Kiera had simply misplaced her earrings. The dry cleaner she'd tried to sue for ruining a dress. The dress had been returned in perfect condition, and Kiera had admitted in a text message to her sister that she just wanted to teach them a lesson about carelessness. Evidence. Mountains of it. All meticulously documented, time-stamped, verified. June compiled it into a single file labeled Simmons_Karmic_et.pdf and sent it to CO's phone. "It's devastating," he said. "Every incident where she weaponized her privilege against people who couldn't fight back. We've got names, dates, witnesses. This doesn't just damage her reputation. It nukes it from orbit." CO's phone buzzed with the file. He looked at Kiera, who had finally gotten through to someone, her husband's business partner, from the sound of it. She was still explaining, still justifying, still believing her last name would save her. "Mrs. Simmons," CO interrupted. She turned, face flushed with anger and fear. "In approximately 4 hours, every person you've ever mistreated is going to receive a phone call. Would you like to guess what they're going to be offered?" Kiera's mouth opened. Closed. What does that mean?" CO's smile was colder than a mortuary slab. "It means you should call your publicist." His phone rang. The hospital administrator. And from the man's voice, CO could tell the first domino had already fallen. The first call came at 2:47 a.m. Kiera Simmons sat in her home office. 14,000 square feet of marble and imported Italian furniture. Watching her phone light up like a slot machine hitting jackpot. Except every notification was another piece of her life crumbling. The Riverside Country Club. Membership revoked, effective immediately. No explanation. Just a terse email signed by all 15 board members. Then the Metropolitan Arts Council. Her name removed from the donor wall. The $300,000 she'd contributed last year? They were returning it. We feel our values no longer align with yours. Her sister called, crying. Kiera, what did you do? The Vanderbilt Foundation just pulled out of our charity gala. They said. She could barely get the words out. They said they won't be associated with our family anymore. By 4 a.m., the video had dropped. CO's team had compiled it with the precision of a true crime documentary. 7 minutes of Kiera Simmons's greatest hits. The restaurant incident where she'd made that waiter cry. Full security footage, audio pristine. The country club pool where she'd screamed at a lifeguard for letting those people's children swim in the deep end. The boutique where she'd thrown a dress at a sales associate's face because the size was wrong. Every incident, every slur, every moment she'd wielded her privilege like a weapon. The video ended with hospital surveillance footage from yesterday. Kiera slapping Tiara. The sound echoed. Then a simple text card. 20 years of abusing service workers. 0 consequences. Until now. It went viral in 6 hours. By sunrise, Kiera's phone had become a weapon turned against her. Her publicist quit via text message. Her lawyer, the one who'd represented her family for 2 decades, sent a formal letter of termination. We can no longer provide adequate representation given the current circumstances. The circumstances being that CO hygiene had made her toxic. The real genius wasn't the video. It was what came after. Every person Kiera had ever mistreated received a phone call from a law firm they'd never heard of. The firm offered free legal representation, full funding for any claims they wanted to pursue. NDAs voided, settlements renegotiated, testimonies documented. The housekeeper she'd gotten fired now had a legal team ready to sue for wrongful termination. The dry cleaner? Countersuing for defamation with evidence Kiera had fabricated the damage claim. 17 people accepted the offer in the first 24 hours. But CO saved the most devastating move for last. At 9 a.m., Kiera's husband's business partner held a press conference. The family's construction company, the one that had built half of Seoul's luxury high-rises, was under federal investigation for safety violations. Violations that had been documented for years, but buried under layers of political connections and strategic donations. Those connections? Severed. Every politician Kiera's family had bankrolled suddenly discovered the urgent need to distance themselves. Campaign donations returned with apologies. Government contracts under review. The mayor's office released a statement about maintaining ethical standards in city partnerships. Kiera's family empire was bleeding from 1,000 cuts, and every single one led back to that slap. Her father called at noon. Fix this. I don't care what it takes. Apologize. Grovel. Make it stop. So Kiera did what people with no options left always do. She went on social media. The apology video was everything CO's team had scripted. Kiera, makeup-free, eyes red from crying, sitting in front of a plain wall. I want to apologize to Tiara Evans, to the nursing staff at Memorial Hospital, and to everyone I've hurt through my actions and words. I recognize now that my behavior was unacceptable. I'm seeking help and taking full responsibility. She posted it at 3 p.m. By 3:02 p.m., it had 10,000 comments. None of them sympathetic. But the real blow came at 4 p.m. Kiera's youngest son, Marcus, the one at Cornell, the one being groomed to take over the family business, was arrested on campus. The charges? Drug possession. DUI from 2 years ago that had been mysteriously dismissed. Assault allegations from a fraternity party that had been settled quietly with a 6-figure payout and an NDA. Every skeleton the family had buried was clawing its way back to the surface. Kiera's phone rang one more time. Unknown number. She answered with shaking hands. Mrs. Simmons, CO Hygiene's voice was calm, almost pleasant. Your husband is being discharged from Memorial Hospital today. I've arranged for his transfer to Seoul General. The same floor where my wife works, actually. I thought you might appreciate the irony. Please, Kiara whispered. What do you want from me? Want? Seo laughed softly. Mrs. Simmons, I don't want anything from you. I already have everything. Your reputation, your family's contracts, your children's futures. What I'm calling about is what comes next. The line went dead, and Kiara realized with mounting horror that 72 hours hadn't even passed yet. Tiara found Seo on their penthouse balcony at midnight, hands gripping the railing hard enough to turn his knuckles white. You haven't slept, she said quietly. He didn't turn around. Below them, Seoul glittered like broken glass. I keep seeing it. Your lip bleeding. That mark on your face. His voice was flat. Empty. I keep seeing her standing over you. Tiara moved closer, her hand finding his shoulder. He flinched. Don't. The word came out raw. Don't comfort me right now, Tiara. You don't understand what I almost did in that hospital. Then tell me. Seo finally turned. His eyes were red-rimmed, haunted. When Marcus sent me that footage, my first call wasn't to my digital team. It was to Jean Woo. He watched her face, waiting for recognition. Jean Woo, the cleaner, the man who made problems disappear permanently. I told him to bring plastic sheeting and a van. I was going to kill her, Tiara, right there in that hospital, in front of witnesses, in front of God. I didn't care. Tiara's breath caught. The only reason Kiara Simmons is still breathing, Seo continued, voice cracking, is because I saw you in that break room, saw how you looked at me, like you were afraid I'd become the monster everyone already thinks I am. He turned back to the city. Maybe they're right. They're not. I destroyed her entire family for one slap, Tiara. Her son is facing jail time. Her father's company is under federal investigation. I didn't just hurt her. I annihilated everyone connected to her. That's not justice. That's power, Tiara interrupted. She moved in front of him, forcing him to meet her eyes. And you chose to use it without killing her. You chose to expose her pattern of abuse instead of just making her disappear. That's not being a monster, Hygiene. That's being my husband. His jaw clenched. You don't know how close. I know exactly how close. She touched his face, gentle fingers on sharp cheekbones. But you didn't cross that line. You let me be your conscience. That's what makes you different from them. Seo pulled her against him, burying his face in her hair. His whole body was shaking. I'm so tired of being different. Just once I wanted. His phone buzzed. They both froze. Seo pulled it out, read the message, and his expression shifted from anguish to something far more dangerous. No. What is it? Kiara's husband. Seo's voice had gone cold again. Dead again. He just died. Heart attack. 20 minutes ago. He looked at Tiara, and she saw the war happening behind his eyes. She's going to think I killed him. The whole city is going to think I killed him. Did you? No. He showed her his phone. Messages from the hospital. Natural causes. Documented. But that doesn't matter. Everyone will assume. He stopped. Tiara, this changes everything. If they think I'm willing to murder. His phone rang. Unknown number. Again. Seo answered on speaker. A woman's voice, cracked with grief and rage. Kiara Simmons. You killed him. You murdered my husband, you. Mrs. Simmons, Seo said quietly. I didn't touch your husband. But I understand you need someone to blame. You destroyed everything. And now he's dead. You might as well have. Careful, Seo interrupted. Because if you publicly accuse me of murder, I'll be forced to defend myself. And that means releasing the final file my team compiled. His voice dropped to a whisper. The one about your husband's business practices. The safety violations that killed 11 construction workers over the last decade. Would you like those families to know the real reason their loved ones are dead? Silence. Then sobbing. Then the line went dead. Tiara stared at her husband. What file? What workers? Seo met her eyes, and in them she saw something that made her blood run cold. The ones I was going to use if she didn't stop, he said softly. The ones that prove your slap wasn't the first time Kiara Simmons had blood on her hands. Just the first time she got caught. 3 weeks later, Tiara stood in front of a building she didn't recognize in a neighborhood she knew too well. CO had blindfolded her for the drive, which should have been romantic but felt ominous given everything that had happened. When he removed the silk cloth, she found herself staring at a modern glass and steel structure that looked like it had been airlifted from Beverly Hills and dropped into one of Seoul's most neglected districts. The sign above the entrance made her knees weak. Evans Community Health Center. "What did you do?" she whispered. CO stood beside her, hands in his pockets, watching her face with an intensity that bordered on desperate. "I told you I was building something from the ashes. I meant it literally." He led her inside. The lobby was pristine, floor-to-ceiling windows, comfortable seating, children's play area in the corner. But it was the people that made Tiara's throat close up. The waiting room was full. Elderly Korean grandmothers, young mothers with babies, day laborers still in their work clothes, a transgender woman reading a magazine, a homeless man being checked in by a receptionist who treated him like royalty. All the people Kiara Simmons had spent her life looking down on. "Free healthcare," CO said quietly. "No insurance required. No questions asked. Mental health services. Dental. Vision. Addiction counseling. We've got translators for 12 languages. Pediatrics. Geriatrics." He walked her down a corridor lined with exam rooms. The initial funding came from liquidating Kiara's personal assets. The country club memberships. The vacation properties. The art collection. Every luxury she hoarded while people like this suffered. Tiara stopped walking. "How much?" $47 million. CO opened a door to reveal a state-of-the-art surgical suite. But that was just the start. "I convinced 7 of the corporations that dropped her family's construction contracts to redirect their charitable giving here instead. Annual endowment is now $90 million. This place will run for decades." A nurse walked past, young black, wearing scrubs with cartoon characters on them. She smiled at Tiara. "Dr. Kim is asking if you're ready for the dedication ceremony, Mrs. CO?" Tiara looked at her husband. "Dedication ceremony?" CO's expression softened. "There's a plaque in the main entrance. I thought you should see it before." He hesitated, vulnerable in a way she rarely saw. "Before you tell me if I went too far." They walked back to the lobby. A cloth covered something on the wall near the entrance. CO nodded to Marcus, who pulled the covering away. The bronze plaque read, "The Evans Community Health Center in honor of Tiara Evans, RN, where hatred once lived. Healing now thrives, funded by the transformation of privilege into purpose dedicated to serving those society forgets." Below it, in smaller text, "Special thanks to Kiara Simmons, whose actions inspired this center's creation." Tiara's hand flew to her mouth. "You thanked her? Publicly? Permanently? In bronze?" CO moved closer. "Every person who walks through these doors will see her name, will know that her cruelty was converted into care. She wanted to diminish you for helping people. Now her entire liquidated net worth exists only to help the people she despised." His voice dropped. "She'll live forever as the villain who accidentally funded a miracle." Tiara was crying now, ugly tears that she didn't bother to hide. "This is hygiene, this is justice," he finished. "Real justice. The kind you taught me was possible." He pulled her against him. "Killing her would have taken 30 seconds. Building this took 3 weeks and will save lives for 30 years. You were right. Power isn't just about destruction." The dedication ceremony started. Local politicians showed up, the same ones who'd abandoned Kiara's family, now eager to be photographed with CO's charitable endeavor. News cameras, reporters. The mayor gave a speech about community health care and social responsibility. Tiara stood at the podium, looking out at faces that looked like hers, like her parents, like the patients she'd spent years fighting for. She started to speak about dignity, about access to care, about what it meant to be seen. That's when she noticed Kiara Simmons, standing in the back of the crowd, thin, older somehow, wearing clothes Tiara recognized from a department store, not a designer boutique. Their eyes met across the room. Kiara's face was unreadable. Grief. Rage. Something else Tiara couldn't name. Then Kiara turned and walked out. Sio appeared at Tiara's elbow, following her gaze. She's been here twice this week. Just stands outside. Watching. Should we? No. His jaw tightened. Let her watch. Let her see what her hatred built. Let her live with the fact that her cruelty created something beautiful that she'll never be able to touch. The ceremony ended. Families poured into the building. A little girl, couldn't be more than 6, ran up to Tiara and hugged her legs. My mama says you're the nurse lady who's gonna make sure we can see the doctor even though we don't got money. Tiara knelt down, eye level with the child. That's right, sweetheart. You and your mama and anyone who needs help. The girl beamed and ran back to her mother. Sio watched this exchange with an expression Tiara had never seen before. Something breaking. Something healing. She called this morning, he said suddenly. Who? Kiara. He pulled out his phone, showed her a voicemail timestamp. I haven't listened to it yet. I wanted you to be here when I did. Tiara's heart hammered. Play it. Sio hit the button. Kiara's voice filled the space between them, ragged and small. I don't know why I'm calling. Maybe because you're the only person who'll understand what I'm about to say. A long pause. Breathing. I went to the center today. Saw the people going in. People I would have. Her voice broke. My husband is dead. My children won't speak to me. I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment and working retail because no one will hire me for anything else. You took everything. Another pause. But that little girl, the one who hugged your wife, she looked so happy, so safe. Kiara's voice dropped to a whisper. I never made anyone feel safe. Not once in my entire life. And now my name is on a wall funding the one thing I spent my whole life trying to avoid. Being remembered for helping people I thought were beneath me. The voicemail should have ended there. But it didn't. There's something you need to know, Kiara continued, her tone shifting. Hardening. Something I found while going through my husband's papers after he died. About the construction company. About those 11 workers who died. A bitter laugh. You think you know everything, Mr. Sio. You think your investigation covered all the angles. But there's a 12th body. One that never made it into any official report. One that my husband made sure stayed buried. Tiara felt Sio go rigid beside her. Her name was Minyoung Park. She was 19. Illegal immigrant. Fell from scaffolding on one of our sites 7 years ago. My husband paid off the foreman, disposed of the body, erased her from the payroll like she never existed. Her family back in China still thinks she's alive. Kiara's breathing was ragged now. I kept quiet about it for 7 years. But you destroyed my life, so now I'm destroying yours. I'm going to the police tomorrow. I'm going to tell them everything. And I'm going to tell them that you knew about it. That your investigation deliberately covered it up to use as leverage. The voicemail ended. Tiara stared at Sio. Did you know? His face had gone pale. No. I swear to God, Tiara, He was already dialing, phone pressed to his ear. June. I need everything on Minyoung Park. Chinese national. Worked construction. Died 7 years ago. Find out if Kiara's telling the truth and find out now. He hung up and looked at Tiara with eyes that had gone from soft to lethal in seconds. If she goes to the police with this story and claims I knew about it, they'll investigate you. They'll destroy this center. They'll seize the assets pending investigation. Every dollar we've spent, every patient we're treating, it all stops. His hands were shaking. She's not just trying to hurt me. She's trying to burn down the one good thing that came from all of this. Tiara's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Just a photo. It was Kiara Simmons, standing outside a police station. The timestamp read, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Below it, one last slap. Let's see who bleeds this time. The call came at 6 a.m. Sio's phone lit up the dark bedroom like a flashbang. He answered before the second ring, voice already sharp. "Talk to me." June's voice was breathless. "We found her. Minyoung Park. She's alive." Tiara sat up so fast the room spun. Sio had gone completely still. Phone pressed so hard to his ear it was turning white. "Say that again." "She's alive. Living in Vancouver under a different name. Married. 2 kids. I'm sending you photos now." The sound of typing. "She did fall from that scaffolding 7 years ago. Broke both legs, crushed vertebrae. But she didn't die. The foreman who disposed of the body actually helped her escape. Got her across the border. Gave her enough money to start over. He felt guilty about the working conditions, I guess. Developed a conscience." Sio's laugh was half-sob. "Kiara doesn't know." "Kiara doesn't know," June confirmed. "She's about to walk into that police station and report a murder that never happened. She's going to accuse you of covering up a death that didn't occur. And we have the victim alive and willing to testify that her former employer's wife is, quote, completely unhinged." Tiara watched emotions flash across her husband's face. Relief. Rage. Something that looked almost like pity. "Where is Kiara now?" "Outside the police station. She's been there for an hour. Pacing. My guy says she looks like she's trying to build up courage." Sio was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. "I need you to patch me through to her phone. Right now. Boss, if you threaten her." "I'm not going to threaten her." Sio's voice was quiet. Tired. "I'm going to give her a choice." 2 minutes later, Kiara Simmons's phone rang. She stood on the steps of Seoul's Central Police Station, hand on the door, and almost didn't answer. But old habits die hard. She looked at the unknown number and answered. "Don't go inside," Sio said. Kiara's grip tightened on the phone. "How did you're having me followed. Minyoung Park is alive." The world stopped. That's impossible. "I saw the reports. My husband showed me." "Your husband lied to you. Just like he lied about everything else." Sio's voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. "She's in Vancouver. Healthy. Happy. Alive. If you walk into that police station and report a murder, you'll be filing a false report. You'll face criminal charges. And Minyoung will have to testify that your family helped her escape an abusive work situation." Kiara's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the stone steps. "I don't understand." "I know you don't." Sio paused. "I'm sending a car for you. Be outside in 5 minutes." "Why would I?" "Because I'm about to offer you something your money never could. A chance to be part of something that matters." The line went dead. Kiara sat there, phone in shaking hands, watching early morning commuters flow past her like water around a stone. She could still go inside. Still burn everything down out of spite. Still try to hurt the man who'd destroyed her life. The black Mercedes pulled up exactly 5 minutes later. Kiara got in. 3 months later, the Evans Community Health Center held its grand expansion ceremony. The original building now had 2 additional wings. Pediatric oncology, addiction recovery, a women's shelter. The funding had tripled after a mysterious donor, listed only as KS, had contributed her last remaining asset, a trust fund she'd inherited from her grandmother. Tiara stood in the new children's ward, watching Kiara Simmons read to a group of kids in the corner. The woman looked different, softer somehow. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple sweaters and jeans. The imperious expression had been traded for something that almost looked like peace. "She's here every Tuesday and Thursday," said Dr. Kim, the center's director. "Volunteers in the children's ward. The kids love her. She's patient, kind. Nothing like the woman in those videos." Tiara had fought this. Fought Sio's decision to offer Kiara a path to redemption instead of just destroying her completely. They'd screamed at each other for hours. Tiara's rage at being slapped colliding with Sio's exhaustion at being the instrument of vengeance. "She doesn't deserve forgiveness," Tiara had said. "No," Sio had agreed. "But she deserves the chance to become someone who might. Just like I did when I met you." Now, watching Kiera help a little girl with leukemia turn the pages of a picture book, Tiara understood what her husband had been trying to tell her. Power wasn't just about punishment. It was about transformation, about taking something broken and making it useful again. Her wedding ring caught the light. White gold, simple, beautiful. They'd gotten married last month in a ceremony that had fused their worlds into something new. Sio's associates in tailored suits standing next to Tiara's nursing school friends. Korean traditional music bleeding into gospel. Two worlds that shouldn't have fit together, creating something that somehow did. The little girl in Kiera's lap laughed at something in the book. Kiera smiled. A real smile, not the practiced social expression Tiara had seen in those viral videos. The woman looked up, caught Tiara watching, and for a moment their eyes met. Kiera mouthed two words. "Thank you." Tiara nodded. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But acknowledgement that people could change when the alternative was becoming irrelevant. Sio appeared at her elbow, sliding an arm around her waist. "You ready?" "For what?" "The real announcement." He gestured toward the lobby where a crowd was gathering. "Politicians. Press. Patients. We're about to tell them about Phase 3. Tiara's eyes widened. "We got the funding. We got the funding." Sio's smile was wolfish. 5 more centers. One in every district where healthcare access is worst. Same model. Same mission. The Evans Community Health Initiative. He pulled her closer. Your name on buildings across the entire city. A legacy built from the worst moment of your life. They walked to the podium together. Cameras flashed. Tiara looked out at the crowd and saw the journey mapped in faces. The nurses from Memorial Hospital who'd watched her get slapped. The patients who'd been turned away from other facilities. Kiera Simmons in the back, holding that little girl's hand. And Sio beside her, the man who'd turned his capacity for destruction into a force for healing because she'd asked him to. Tiara began to speak about expansion, about access, about dignity in healthcare. The words flowed like water, like truth, like the future she was building one patient at a time. That's when the back door burst open. A man in a suit, federal agent, from the look of him, strode down the center aisle with 3 officers behind him. The room went silent. Sio's hand found Tiara's, squeezed once. His face had gone carefully blank. The agent stopped in front of the podium. "Sio Hygiene, you're under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit." "Wait." Kiera Simmons stepped forward from the crowd. Every head turned. "Before you do this, there's something you need to know." The agent's eyes narrowed. "Ma'am, this is an active arrest. You need to step back. The money funding these centers," Kiera continued, voice steady and clear. "It came from liquidating my assets. Assets that were obtained through my family's construction company. A company that's currently under federal investigation." She pulled out her phone, held it up. "I have documentation. Emails. Financial records. Proof that every dollar used to build this place was legally transferred through proper channels after my assets were seized in civil forfeiture proceedings." The agent's expression shifted. Uncertainty creeping in. "Which means," Kiera said, looking directly at Sio, "that unless you can prove Mr. Sio broke the law enforcing those forfeitures, which you can't because he didn't, these centers are clean. Built on money that was legally obtained through legal means." She smiled, bitter and bright. "I should know. I'm the one who lost it all." The room held its breath. The agent looked at his phone, at his officers, back at Kiera. "We'll need to verify. Verify all you want." Kiera's voice was ice. "But you're not arresting anyone in my health center. Not today. My health center." The words hung in the air like a benediction. The agent hesitated, then nodded to his team. They retreated to the back of the room, phones out, making calls. Verifying. Investigating. Trying to find the crack in the armor. They wouldn't find it. Because Sio had built this entire initiative knowing someone would eventually come looking. Had made it bulletproof. Legal. Clean. Tiara looked at her husband. At Kiera. At the little girl with leukemia who was clapping, because she didn't understand what almost just happened, but knew something good had occurred. "You planned this," Tiara whispered to Sio. "I planned for every contingency." His expression was unreadable, including the one where Kiara Simmons became the person who saved us. The agent approached again, this time alone. "Mr. Sio, this investigation isn't over. But, for now, you're free to go. We'll be in touch." He left. The room exhaled collectively. Tiara stepped back up to the podium on shaking legs and finished her speech about the 5 new centers, about expanding care, about building something that would outlast all of them. When it was over, when the cameras had stopped flashing and the crowd had dispersed, Kiara approached them one last time. "Why?" she asked Sio. "Why give me the chance to save you when you'd already destroyed me?" Sio looked at Tiara, then back at Kiara. "Because my wife taught me that the best revenge isn't destruction. It's transformation. I destroyed who you were, but I also gave you the chance to become who you could be. The rest was up to you." Kiara nodded slowly. "I'll never stop trying to earn this. You know that, right? This second chance." "I know," Tiara said. "And mend it." Kiara walked away, back to the children's ward where a little girl was waiting for the next chapter of their story. Tiara and Sio stood in the empty lobby, looking at the bronze plaque, at the building they'd built from ashes and rage, and something that might have been love all along. "From the hospital floor to here," Tiara said softly. "One slap became all of this." "One slap," Sio agreed. "And the decision to transform violence into healing, power into purpose." He kissed her temple. "That was all you, Tiara. I just provided the resources. You provided the vision." They walked out together into Seoul's evening light, leaving behind a building full of hope where there had only been hatred. But in the parking garage, Tiara's phone buzzed one final time. A message from an unknown number. "The federal investigation might be stalled, but I'm not done yet. Your husband thinks he's untouchable because he built some clinics? Tell him Marco Visconti sends his regards. And tell him the real war starts tomorrow." Tiara showed Sio the message. His jaw tightened. "Marco Visconti. Italian syndicate. We've had a truce for 5 years. What does he want?" "The same thing everyone wants when they see someone build something beautiful." Sio's eyes had gone cold again. Dangerous again. "He wants to take it away." The screen faded to black with white text. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for part 2, when Tiara's clinic becomes the battleground for an international mafia war, and the nurse who wanted peace must decide how much blood she's willing to accept in the name of healing. Next time, the Visconti Protocol.